All right, guys, we finally made it. This is the last section of chapter 6, describing pairs of angles. So I just kind of want to go back to when I say pair, I mean 2. I don't mean 3, I don't mean 4, I don't mean 1. Pair implies 2. So most everything in this section will talk about pairs of angle. In other words, 2 angles put together. Start with some vocab. Complementary angles would be 2 angles that sum to 90 degrees. Okay, so 2 angles added up equals 90 degrees. Remember, sum means added. Supplementary angles are 2 angles that sum to 180 degrees. And once again, add. So complementary angles, if this is a 90-degree angle, this and then this would be complementary because if you put them together, they make a 90-degree angle. Supplementary angle, maybe I have, I don't know, this here and this here. Maybe they're totally separate. Maybe this is 150 and this is 30. These would be supplementary angles because they add to 180. Let's just put numbers to here, 20 and 70. Okay, so a lot of people get these flipped. So the way I remember it is complementary starts with a C, supplementary starts with an S. Now you can easily make a 9 out of a C, and you can easily make an 8 out of an S. So complementary has a 9 in it, 90. Supplementary has an 8 in it, 180. Or I've also heard students remember it that complementary starts with a C, supplementary starts with an S. Well, C comes before S in the alphabet, just like 90 comes before 180 when you're counting. So either way, I don't care, but find a way to remember which is which. All right, linear pair is 2 adjacent angles that form a line. Okay, so if I draw this, they have to be adjacent. So like this and this, they would not be a linear pair because they are not adjacent. Remember, adjacent, they share one side. Okay, so a linear pair would look something like this. Okay, so this angle here and this angle here would be a linear pair. Do know that anytime you're talking about a linear pair, linear pairs are always supplementary. They will always add up to 180 because a line is 180 degrees. Vertical angles, 2 angles are opposite of each other when lines are crossed. So if I have 2 lines that are crossed, this angle here and this angle here would be vertical angles because they're directly across from each other. Or I could say this angle and this angle would be vertical angles because once again, they're directly across from each other. All right, last one, adjacent angles, 2 angles that share one common side and a common vertex, but have no interior points. So this angle here and this angle here would be adjacent. The reason being is because they share this side, right? That's a side for both of them. And they share a common vertex, which would be, oh, I lost my cursor. Here we go. Which would be right there. There's my vertex. But they don't overlap, which means they have no common interior points. All right, let's look at example number 1. Now we're going to use this diagram to the right. We have 1, 2, 3 different angles. And it says, in the figure, name a pair of complementary angles, supplementary angles, and a pair of adjacent angles. Well, we're going to use these measures to find out complementary, supplementary, and adjacent. So remember, complementary, 2 angles that add to 90, supplementary, 2 angles that add to 180. Okay, well, notice 37 and 53 add to 90. So that would mean that angle BAC, which is this angle here, So this is 37 degrees. And angle RST, which would be this. These are complementary angles because these two add to 90. That's what makes them complementary. All right, what about supplementary? Well, if we notice 127 and 53. So I could say angle CAD and angle RST would be supplementary. And the reason they're supplementary is because CAD is 127, RST is 53, and when you add these together, they make 180. All right, now let's find a pair of adjacent angles. Okay, let me kind of clear this up a little bit just so we don't have, there we go, a little easier to read now. Adjacent angles, remember, they're side by side, they share one common side and a common vertex. Okay, we'll notice these two angles here, this one and this one here, they share this side. And then the vertex is A for both of them. So angle CAB and angle CAD are adjacent angles. All right, let's look at example 2 now. Example 2 is asking about adjacent angles. So before we move on with this, I want you to ask yourself, what are adjacent angles? All right, so just to reiterate, one common side, same vertex, and have no common interior points. In other words, what this means is they don't overlap. All right, so let's look now. Are angles KGH, so let's KGH, so that means this angle here, is that angle an LKG, are these two angles adjacent? All right, no, these cannot be because they don't have a common vertex, or they don't share the same vertex, okay? So they don't have this, therefore they can't be adjacent angles. All right, let's look at angle FGK. So FGK is this angle here in red, and FGH, which is this entire angle, okay? Well, let's look at these to see if these are adjacent angles. So do they share a common side? Well, both of them have FG as a common side, so yes. Do they share a common vertex? Well, notice the vertex here is G, the vertex here is G. That's a yes. They have no common interior points, or they don't overlap. Well, a point here is in both angle FGK and angle FGH. So they do overlap, they do share common points, so this is a no. And even though two of these three are checks, yes, they are not adjacent angles because they overlap. All right, let's look at example 3 now. All right, it says angle 1 is a complement, so complement is our vocab word, of angle 2. You should be asking yourself, what does complement mean? What are complementary angles? Complementary angles add up to 90 degrees, okay? So if we know that 1 and 2 are complements, that means angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 90 degrees. Okay, well, it tells us that angle 2 is 5 degrees. We want to find the measure of angle 1. So if I let angle 1 be x and angle 2 be 5, if I subtract 5 from both sides, I get x equals 85 degrees. So measure of angle 1 equals 85 degrees. Okay, now angle 3 is a supplement of angle 4. Now, what are supplementary angles? Remember that supplementary angles add up to 180, which means that measure of angle 3 plus measure of angle 4 equals 180. Well, it tells us that angle 3 is 148. I'm just going to call angle 4x because we don't know 180. So if I subtract 148 from both sides, I get x equals, what is that, 32 degrees? There's our answer. Measure of angle 4 equals 32 degrees. Let's look at example 4 now. Another word problem. Don't shy away from word problems. It says, when viewed from the side, the frame of a ball return net form a pair of supplementary angles with the ground. Okay, so if we go into this word problem and we pick out our vocabulary words, it's supplementary. So ask yourself, what does supplementary mean? Supplementary means it adds to 180 degrees. Okay, now I'm very, very scatterbrained, guys. So when I look at this, I see a disaster happening because there's a whole lot going on that really doesn't have anything to do with the problem. So I'm just going to redraw this figure without all the added stuff. So this is E, this is C, this is D, and this is B. This angle is 4x plus 8, and the other angle, the smaller angle, is x plus 2. Do you have to do this? Absolutely not. But at least for me, this is a whole lot easier to look at and read than this. There's too much going on here. I'm too scatterbrained to do a good job looking at that. So now let's figure out this problem. So it says these two angles form a pair of supplementary angles with the ground. Okay, so if they're supplementary, they add to 180 degrees. So I can set up an algebraic problem. 4x plus 8 plus x plus 2, all that equals 180. Okay, now we've taken a geometry problem and turned it into an algebra problem. So 4x plus x, 5x, plus 8 and 2 make 10, equals 180. Subtract 10 from both sides. Divide it by 5. I get x equals, what is that? 34? My calculator says 34. Now, some of you are going to want to say, woo, got it, done. No. This is geometry, not algebra. We need to answer the final question. Guys, if you need to go through and highlight the final questions to get you to answer it, to plug X in, I highly encourage you to do it. All right, so now we know that X is 34, so 4 times 34 plus 8, that is 144. And then x plus 2, well, x still is 34. So there's our two angles.